And what's the name of your podcast?
Well, welcome to episode 6 of the Independent Threads podcast. Appreciate all the love that we've been getting. Make sure to go down and like, subscribe, share, do all the things that'll help this channel grow. But for today's episode, I've got Brad from Leisure Atelier. Did I pronounce that properly?
Leisure.
Leisure.
You got most of it right.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, Leisure.
Now, I had done some research, had some questions to start off with, but just before we started recording, you were telling me a story, and I think that is a very interesting story about how you started your brand.
Oh yeah. I started my brand 2013. Prior to that, it was more like a focus on sneakers. Um, what was one of the big things that propelled me into making clothes
Yeah.
was like I wanted to open my own sneaker boutique. I used to apply at like Foot Locker, sneaker chains. I never got hired. So I said,
Okay.
you know what, I'm open my own. Forget it.
There
You
you
know what
go.
I'm saying? I love sneakers. I was collecting at that time. And the boutiques that I was going to, they had their own brand in the store. So that was like, all right, you know, instead of like starting to sell the sneakers, maybe I could do both.
Okay.
And create a brand for myself. And that what led me down the rabbit hole into just being like, okay, I want to be able to design a full fledged brand.
Okay.
And that was the birth of the
Sure.
So,
But more specifically,
mhm.
how did you get that seed money?
The seed money came from me selling my sneaker collection. So prior to that, uh, I was collecting sneakers heavy, and that was during like the era where people were camping out for sneakers. It was almost like you couldn't get them unless you had to be in the know where they were sold at, how many pairs.
Yeah.
Even if you had insiders, you knew how much they had. So it was a big thing, and I had over like 200 pairs of sneakers.
Oh.
So like I sold every pair.
That had to hurt.
It did. I mean, at the time, um, it was like bittersweet because one, I was going into something that I wanted to do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the other half of it was I didn't really want to smell my sneakers, but I needed to see money to start my brand.
Right.
So that's what had to happen. My wife, oh, at that time she was my girlfriend, and she was with me when she saw me like selling every pair, and she just watching like you're selling every pair. Like I said, it's bittersweet. Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fast forward to now. Now I look back and I be like, maybe I want to jump back into collecting sneakers again. So
Okay.
so I mean, I grab something here and there, but you know,
So when you started Leisure back in 2013,
mhm,
and even still today, right? It's like a double L logo.
yes.
What's the inspiration behind that?
So what made me come up with the logo was honestly like the aspiration or the inspiration from the higher end brands, the grandfather brands. So I kind of looked at the Gucci's, the Louis Vuittons, the Chanel.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of Louis Vuitton. Always been. I know everybody loves Gucci, but I always liked Louis Vuitton,
Okay.
and I noticed those brands always cross their letters.
Gotcha.
So at first it was like, okay, I'm gonna just have it spelled out, and I was playing on on Photoshop because I was going to school for graphic design, and I'm like, all right, I want to create the same type of feel when someone looks at this logo, that it creates the same effect that it would as if you're looking at Louis Vuitton or Gucci. So I played with the L, multitude of fonts, started changing fonts, like sketching it out, changing it on the computer, looking up fonts, downloading fonts. Like I just went through this whole thing, right? And it was crazy. I was out one night, and I was out partying one night, and I came home. I was sitting there chilling, and like I'm like, okay, and just looking at my drawings, and I thought about it. I'm like, why don't I flip them? Because most of them they just cross horizontally.
Yeah, yeah.
Me, I decided to take the two L's and flip them so they're back to each other. So as I constantly played with it, moved it around, I started noticing that the cross, they started to make a logo. And over time, I kind of started looking at it and forcing them more together. And I'm like, there we go. And it can't, it was like a perfect marriage. Like it made sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that night, I made it. I made my first tee that night.
Okay.
I was that excited about my logo, and from there, the logo was birthed. Sometimes I look at it as like a running joke to those brands because you don't see somebody from like my stature or whatever to create a brand that's purposely with that logo, with that type of logo or something like that. It's always like a play off their logo.
Right.
Me, I tried to create something totally different.
Yeah. Look, maybe some inspiration, but your own thing at the end of the day.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Definitely.
So you got 2013, you start the brand. 2014, you launch the website.
Yes.
Now, how did that go in the early days?
So 2013 was like, so let's bounce back to 2013. 2013, I had my first kid that year, and during that same time, I saw my samples for the first time.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a emotional, not emotional, but it's a very big thing for me because me having my first kid and me starting something that I wanted to do and loved, it was happening at the same. So it's almost like I was getting, like two things getting birthed at the same time.
Yeah.
So I saw my samples. I think late 2013 is when I started to like really start telling everybody, hey, I'm about to have a brand. I started telling my friends they were off to college at the time. And the friends that I was hanging out with here, people I met, sneaker friends, I was just telling, hey, I'm starting a brand. I'm starting a brand. And then uh, going into the end of that year, I released some T-shirts. Went really well. I actually I hit the like ground running because matter of fact, it was a store in Evanston that saw my shirt and they wanted to carry my shirt. So that quick. By the end of that year, I had a store that carried my pieces, and it was starting to spread. So 2014, I would say like probably midway or probably midway or springish, springtime-ish. I was like, okay, I don't have no website. Let me try to see how the website way go because I was doing straight hand to hand
out the trunk,
out the trunk, bro. Like hand to hand. Um, I was just like anywhere, anytime somebody wanted something, I'm like I'll just drive to you. Okay. So I was kind of doing like word of mouth, and that spread pretty good. I was going off the old school way of getting your name out there because now even though you had the internet, I always felt like word of mouth was really it's still kind of effective. Yeah. So I kind of looked at that like, hey, once everybody's saying, hey, where you get that from? So that's where it went, and then I opened my website. Fast forward to that, I opened my website, and uh, I had high expectations, and they were let down. Like, like I opened my website, and I'm thinking like, man, I designed it right. I did this, and I did it on Wix.com. My brother told me, he's like, man, use Wix. Like you don't have to do, they had Shopify, but Shopify wasn't Shopify now.
Right. Okay.
So he was like, yeah, use Wix and this and that. I'm like, okay. So I did it. I'm letting everybody know I was doing more videos then, like on Instagram, and Instagram wasn't Instagram now either. So I was doing all those things, and like I opened my website, and I would say probably like 10 sales, and that was over like a month, and I was like, oh no, this is not.
That ain't even paying your hosting fees.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't. I was like, man. I'm like, this is not gonna cut it, man. This is not gonna cut it. Um, so after a while, I closed it, and I just went back to doing pop-ups. So I went with what I knew, and from there I just kept expanding.
So you don't even today, you don't really even have a website per se.
No, no.
Okay.
I open it periodically.
Yeah.
And it do get sales now. But I'm so used to the moving around aspect of it
Yeah.
that I'd be like, okay, I might do a pop up here or a vendor event there.
Yeah.
Or, even now I have a physical store. So sometimes I tell people, hey, just come to my shop and, buy a piece or whatever.
There you go.
Or if
Okay.
they see something they like, I just like, well, I'm here. Or I still kind of depending on who, like my close people that are really close to me, I'll still pull up and be like, I'll pull up and give you the piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It don't matter.
Okay.
So, because I like the personal connection of it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So the website's not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the spring summer, so you release stuff kind of in seasons,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so the first spring summer 2015,
Mm-hmm.
there's a little fashion show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You did your research.
Hey, I gotta know who I'm talking to.
You went deep. You went deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so was that your fashion show or was that something you were just a part of?
It was my fashion show.
Okay.
I think what it was, so 2015, I would say the year prior.
Okay.
And I think it was like during February, during like Fashion Week, typically,
Oh, yeah,
like New York do Fashion Week, like
yeah.
February. I did a fashion show with other brands where
Okay.
someone hosted it, but then that year after, I wanted to do my own brand. So yeah, I did a fashion show. I did it literally at a art gallery
Okay.
because at that time I wanted my aesthetic to be centered around art and be more of a creative space than something that's super like, okay, it's grungy, it's.
Yeah.
And at that time I'm making pieces, I'm doing what I need to do,
Yeah.
and I'm still like figuring out, okay, what type of brand am I, what direction I really want to go in creatively,
Sure.
and what is my aesthetic. So I felt like I had certain notes on that, but it wasn't fully, flourished.
Yeah.
So I did that. Um, it was a good turnout. I actually, um, everybody, I think at that point, that's when everybody started to take me seriously.
Okay.
So, so I did that, and I did like what, 20 looks, 20 looks solely, not all different looks, and I did from hats all the way to bags.
Okay.
So that was, yeah. So 2015, that was a full fledged collection that I did, and like I said, it was a good turnout. I actually had like during that time, there was a lot of people that were doing a lot of creative stuff. So I had a performer, I had people that were doing interviews and asking me like about it. So I still have like recap videos of it, and I watch it from time to time, and I'd be like, wow, like I really did that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's good to reflect on that, to know like what you're capable of, but also know how far you came and where it can go. You know what
Sure.
I'm saying? It's always good to look at that.
So, you mentioned that people started taking you seriously then. So you've
Yeah.
been in it, 2 years trying to get it going. What do you think about that show? Flip the switch for some folks.
Um, Maybe because like usually I think for people to really I don't know if it's for our area, maybe it's for fashion, maybe it's because, us as people, I don't want to be like straight specific on it, but like I started with t-shirts.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of brands that's what they start with, a t-shirt. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I decided to do that collection, I wanted to do it was almost me inviting them into what else do I want to do.
Gotcha.
So when they started to see the bags, they started to see dresses,
Mhm.
they started to see um, of course I did sweatpants and stuff before, but when I did that fashion show, I did full fledged like jeans. That was my first introduction. People started to actually see me do denim,
Okay.
and I wanted to do denim at that time, so that happened. And from there, people were like, okay, it's not just you really want to do this. It's
Right.
not just just from a perception perspective, like they looked at it and thought like it was just a t-shirt brand.
Mhm.
And when they started to see those other pieces during that show, it kind of it kind of catapulted into the like, okay, he's really taking this serious from how I looked at each piece and how I wanted to model what like choosing of the models and how I wanted the runway to look and everything. So
Speaking of taking it seriously,
mm-hmm.
uh, it may be about that time, maybe a little bit later. You had an Instagram post
Mm-hmm.
that said "True Dedication."
Mm-hmm.
What was that post?
Dang, you probably got me on that one. I don't remember what I posted on it, but I don't know if it was a design or not. But
It was actually your hand tattoo.
yeah,
You're putting your logo
see,
on your hand.
see, you got me. You got me. With yeah, you get me with the research, man. Yeah. So
Why do that? Why what about putting your the logo on your hand
mm,
with the post true dedication? What made you decide that was it? That was the thing to do.
um, at that time, I was like really during that time I was really diving into like the whole aspect of fashion. We're diving more deep into just not just streetwear, but just the whole creative aspect of it. Like,
Okay.
why do people, do it? Why is there, outside of it being a business or a specific industry, like what ticks about people that's really into clothes.
Yeah.
So, and if you talk to somebody that's really into fashion, sometimes they won't even tell you this clothes, they're pieces.
Yeah.
They won't say, "Hey, I like that outfit." They like that look. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's just
The language is different.
Yeah, the language is different. The demeanor is different. The way they look at details, the way they look at what what goes together, color compositions, all these things that you won't think on a daily basis.
Okay.
So during that time, I was really into learning that and looking at my brand, and I was like, okay, this is and in that process, I really was like, okay, this is what I really want to do.
Okay.
There's nothing else I want to do. I haven't, I kind of it was almost like I'm starting to getting married to this.
Yeah.
In an
Yeah.
aspect like I didn't have no other thoughts of like, hey, maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that. So, looking at my brand, looking at what I wanted to do and what I want to build from it, I started to build that vision on where, what's the end goal, what I want it to be.
Okay.
So, from that aspect, that's where that dedication came from. And I said, you know what? One day I was like looking at my hand, and I'm like, I want my logo on it.
Okay.
And fun note, it's one of my friends. He he's a friend of mine. Uh his name is Greg. Shout out to Boogie. He was actually the first to tat the logo.
Okay.
So he tagged the logo small on his head. Okay. And
Okay.
he's like, man, I'm dedicated to it. Like it's forever. So he did it, and I looked at it, and I'm like, wow. You
It's
know what
not
I'm saying?
even his brand.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what made me thought. But the appreciation and the thought that he put into it, like,
Yeah.
man, I rock with it. Like that was like, you know what? I see that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then I'm like, you know what? It does. This is what I want to do. Why don't I give myself to it? So I was like, you know what? I want my logo tatted on me. So
Okay.
yeah. So shout outs to Boogie because he was the first one.
All right,
First
Boogie.
one. Yeah.
It's your fault? I don't know.
Yeah. Could be. It could be seated somewhere in that.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you
Shout
go.
out to him, man.
And so, we're gonna fast forward a few years,
Mm-hmm.
and you had this. We're all sitting at home
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what this world is gonna look like in early 2020. Even if we're essential workers, we're going to work, but then coming home and
Yeah.
like we got time to think.
Right.
And you wrote, up until lately, I've had the opportunity to reset and refine a couple things I have been wanting to do for a while. I've been designing, learning, watching, and networking in all things fashion, on top of getting back to what I love, which is subcultures and how they all intertwine. Before this, I was planning to release a couple items, but things shifted and plans changed. Being the conscious person that I am, I've blended with the social distancing and slow down as far as business to properly digest, innovate, and execute, being that we are moving into such a different time in business, especially in fashion. I decided to start this insight, which will be personal to me as I openly create and involve people around me in order for me to assist in any way possible. I give you Lamar Projects.
Yes.
So the question is, has Lamar Projects turned into what you wanted it to be?
Not in its entirety, but like what I what I wanted to do with Lamar Project would be something more like personal to me, where um, I took on projects, whether it's a collab with someone, and it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a thing, it could be a community, in that aspect. So I wanted to be able to do something that's outside of my brand, and whereas this might have this certain type of aesthetic, but Lamar Projects, I could be able to be like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to exactly line up with my brand Leisure, but Lamar Projects, I could be able to do that with someone. So when I birthed that, I actually that during that pandemic, I had did a collab with some other brands, and during that time, you had the police brutality, you know, that whole thing, the riots, the protesting. So we decided to say, hey, we're black-owned businesses.
Yeah.
So couple of my designer friends, we all came together and said, hey, let's do a piece, let's make a tee and put all our brands on it. And on the back, it was everyone that died due to police brutality.
Okay.
And I mean, and that would kind of spark it because then, during that time, we're in a house, but we're all messaging each other,
Yeah.
like, hey, this and that, we should do this and this and that. So that what came about. That kind of like ink sparked it. But
Okay.
then more so after that, all my friends they started saying, hey, we should collab because, you know, we knew each other from our brands, but once we decided to do that collab, we started to know how we word, how we intertwine, how we look at things creatively.
Okay.
So from that birth, them asking like, we're all collabing. So I'm like, all right, let's do. I want to create something that's outside of that. So it's not just to my designer friends, it's to anybody.
Anybody.
If the brand is, if someone reached out to me that, hey, let's do something. I'm like, okay. If it's an artist, if it's a company, if it's another store, anything in that realm, and I can be like, all right, I'll put this um under Lamar Projects, and it almost in a sense it's almost like my mood board
Gotcha.
and my portfolio at the same time.
Okay.
So
All right. All
yeah.
right. Now let's talk about the current iteration because over the last what 12, 11,
Yeah.
almost 12 years now,
Mhm.
Leisure has taken some changes,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
in design, and maybe it's as you've learned more and you've gotten deeper. You said, "Oh, I want it to look like this, like
Yeah.
that," and a lot of some of it right now is the Leisure Atelier,
Yeah.
where leisure is free time, use of free time for enjoyment, where atelier is a workshop or studio, especially used by an artist or designer. Now
Yeah.
that's Merriam-Webster's definition.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your definition?
Um, I, Atelier is I looked at it from the aspect of like French designers and how they look at that word. They use that as this is a French house, French design fashion house.
Fashion.
So
Okay.
I wanted to marry that with my brand or with Leisure because quite often I get people that says it the wrong way. They say leisure or Elijah. I'm like, no, it's Leisure, and I always kind of like emphasize the E. So again, that goes back to my logo where I kind of played off the grandfather brands where
Yeah.
a lot of times people say the designer brand name wrong. So it's kind of in my head. I already kind of used to it.
Yeah.
So you might see when someone might say, "I want Channel or Chanel or Versace," or they say Versace. So it's like it's kind of a play on that. So I'm
Yeah.
already kind of used to that
Okay.
in that sense because we say it wrong all the time. So it never really bothers me. I just don't. I just try not to. I try not to come off like a prick and just say like, no, it's Leisure. I'm like, no, it's Leisure. Like, you all right? I mean,
Yeah.
people mispronounce stuff all the time. So that's where me marrying that with Atelier is kind of like that French
Gotcha.
theme going with it. As far as me, it gives off more of I want to give off that presentation of it being high end. or being high design. So those things come together.
All right.
Those two together. Definitely.
And right now we're actually in your shop,
Yes.
and you're part owner of. And so going from, hey, I'm going to design a shirt and sell it out the trunk,
Hmm.
to the website that didn't go the way you wanted it to,
Nah.
and pop-ups.
Yeah.
Why did you say, what, I'm going to roll the dice and see how a physical presence works? And it's been working, I think.
Yeah.
Because we've stopped by quite a few times, but
Yeah.
why do that?
So this is our second store.
Okay.
Prior to, I was one fourth of a store that was called Local.
Mhm.
I think that happened like coming out of the pandemic, and we all were like, the goal was for us to find a place where we could work out instead of working out of our houses.
Okay.
And then the whole idea of having a store came about, and with that, we were like I said, we were like, all right, let's see how it works. It worked really good. I mean, I appreciate all three of those guys, um, because I tell them boldly, like, you guys took the ceiling off my creativity, because it allowed me to give a live test to my consumer.
Mhm.
It allowed me to be like, okay, if I design this, how would this work in the marketplace? How would
Mhm.
this work in retail? It also gave me, it's almost the first store was like a class,
Okay.
if I want to be quite frank, because I started to learn the in and outs of actually having a store,
Okay.
from the accounting perspective, inventory, customer service, um, presentation, marketing is a different way. I feel, when it comes to having a store, whether it's, I mean, set aside from you saying, "Hey, I'm just only online," it's a
Yeah.
different type of approach, you know. So that dynamic really changed my outlook on it, and being here now, I'm one of three store owner of this shop,
Mhm.
and it's going good. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of potential here. We've had a lot of feedback. We've gotten a lot of praise for us having a store actually on this street here.
Mhm.
It's one of our main streets downtown. So
Yep.
so
Yep.
yeah, so it's been pretty good.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, um, you talk about, we're sitting in front of some of your pieces here, which are mostly jackets, shirts, and
Yeah,
things. Going back to that fashion show, you did some other stuff.
yeah.
Word on the street is that there may be a new release coming this
Mhm.
month, next month.
Yes, so this
Yeah.
month I am releasing like my autumn and winter 24 pieces.
Okay.
I did started to post like a release grid, and I think that's one of three. So I haven't even posted the other two,
Okay.
but I wanted to start to get that out there, and I do have a new perspective on how I want to market my brand.
Okay.
So I kind of been diving in, understanding how to do like visuals.
Mhm.
So been watching YouTube on that. So learning that. I'm also I've always been into music, so I've been learning how to mix. I'm not saying I want to be a full-fledged DJ, but
Mhm.
I want to be able to mix and maybe throw my own events, or
Okay.
so because like I said, I'm a big fan of subculture. So those those major subcultures, they kind of marry together. The
Together.
music, the art, the fashion, all those things kind of marry together. And if you're able to mix it right, you got something good, and able to communicate or translate a specific vision or a message to your fan base or your customers.
Yeah.
You can build that community. So that's where I'm at with it now.
All right. Now, I notice the beard's getting a little long.
Yeah.
And is that because,
Yeah.
again, when doing my research,
Mhm.
you see the beard,
Yeah.
that means you're in your creative bag.
Yeah.
Is that is
Yeah.
that what's going on?
Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely. Um, some people notice that. Some people do, and they be like, "Man, you haven't." My dad always cracked jokes. He's like, "Man, you and your barber get into it. What's going on? What's going on?" So and I'm like, "No, I've just been busy." So usually when I'm designing like that, I really
You just focus on the
yeah, I
design.
just lock in, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it does happen like that. Just recently, uh, I feel like I'm going to, like, you know how you transform or you start to change your looks or whatnot. So I kind of was like, okay, I might not cut it. I like just let it stay like this. Yeah,
Okay.
I might let it stay like this. You know, um, uh, I was watching how creatives are able to change without changing anything as far as integrity or whatever they have as a brand. So,
Yeah.
you know, like you have like for example, Tyler Creator, he changes based on the album. You know,
Right.
you have Kanye, which is one of my favorites. He has an era where he actually changes.
Each album is almost its
Yeah,
own era.
exactly. So I'm kind of understanding that because they kind of change as far as creatively in that space. So I think I'm not even I think like I'm in that space now where I'm like, okay, I want to change this. You know, I think I'm gonna move into this space, and this might be just be me. This might just be my last stage. You know what I'm saying? So kind of like a reference to Dragon Ball Z, like Frieza's last stage or Cell after, but that's neither here nor there.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
So if folks want to catch those other grids for the lookbook of what's about to drop,
Yeah.
where can everybody find you and the brand on socials?
You can follow my brand on IG at leisure.atelier. Um, you can follow my personal is lamar.leisure, or even on my oh, I had a brain fart. Even on Facebook, I have a Facebook brand page, leisure.atelier. And then my website, it will be going back up. So
Okay.
I will be having a countdown for it.
Okay.
So it will be up more than likely next week. I've been doing a lot of editing to it. I hate that I'm a creative to overthinking. So sometimes I'll look at it and I'm like, it's good. And then the next day I'll be like, nah. I'm still working on getting out of that and getting out of that headspace of constantly changing something and make it seem like it's going to be perfect, but it's never going to be perfect.
Okay.
So that's the goal and the timeline. So I will be having that up, and once that's posted, I'm gonna have like a list and a countdown for and market that to everybody so people will be able to access it or sign up and be on the note of what's going on when I drop. So,
All right.
yeah.
We'll go follow Leisure out there on IG, Facebook, and be ready for when the next collection drops.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely. I do got more to come, so
All right. And sign up so you'll be notified. You don't want to miss out.
yeah.
All right. Appreciate you being on.
I appreciate it, dog, for sure.
Absolutely.